Hello, welcome everyone. We are here today to talk about Splunk. We have our friend Nick, who's the Director of Sales Engineering. He's going to be giving us the kind of technical demo, showing off how you can really leverage Splunk and GreyNoise together in some interesting ways. And I'm going to get into that real quick, but first we have a couple slides that we want to share with folks. First, just like I said, introductions. We'll have the GreyNoise 201 Splunk session from Nick, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. Here's your speakers. There's Nick on the left. Again, he's the Director of Sales Engineering. He's been with GreyNoise for a bit now, and in his past, he actually worked for Splunk for some time, so he has some experience with their product. And there's myself on the right. I'm the Senior Community Manager here at GreyNoise, and I'm really looking forward to connecting with everyone in our community. Real quick, how you can join us or connect with us in the community. We have a Discord and a Slack. So if you want to join our online community and be able to ask us questions or ask questions from other folks in our community, people that use GreyNoise, the GreyNoise tool, join us on Discord or Slack. The links are on our new community page at greynoise.io/community. There's links to both the Discord, the Slack, an events page, all sorts of things. So check out that page to learn more about our community. And that was about it. That was pretty much my slides. Now I'm going to throw it over to Nick.
All right, let's get this going. So, a quick 30-second refresher if you're not familiar with GreyNoise. Basically, I have honeypots all over the internet. Let me grab a bunch of things here really quick. Really, kind of the way we see people use our data is one of two ways. One is kind of using it to contextualize our data, to be able to say, these are things that are hitting everyone, but I want to find the delta between my data and GreyNoise and identify the things that are maybe just a little bit more targeted towards myself or my organization. So we can, there's a couple of ways you can do this. If you're in the visualizer, you can use the analysis tool, throw a bunch of IPs in there. Makes it easy to kind of sort and filter the data. We also go through, classify things. The real quick, kind of explanation. Benign are the known scanners: Census, Shodan, Google, all those fun things kind of crawling the internet all the time. Things that if it's getting caught up in my threat intel or in my alerts, I don't really care about those things. We're going to just close those out or ignore them. If we don't know who you are, really just comes down to the type of traffic we see. Malicious, you're doing bad things, as the name implies. Unknown, just a lot of kind of noise of the internet. Port scans, recon, crawling for services, all those fun things that we see in our logs and in our traffic every day. So we collect all this data, we make it all available. We also have this concept of Riot, which is really just a collection of common business services. Again, actually the reason how I found GreyNoise, because we were building a lot of playbooks, and you have to keep a big list of things, and it's kind of a pain to do. So Riot is about 40 to 50 million IPs, depending on the day. Just a good reference point to have information for how these IPs are being used, what they're used for. Makes it easier to make some decisions to say, I don't want to block Cloudflare because everyone's going to complain that the internet is broken today. So that's kind of the quick overview of GreyNoise. The data we collect, the data sets that we have available. You can always come into GreyNoise. You can search IPs. You can search all different ways to see kind of what we know about an IP address, what kind of activity that we've observed, and things that we've seen hitting our sensors. But that's really kind of a bummer sometimes when you have to look up, handfuls of IPs and you want the data in your own tools that you are used to working with. So we do have integration inside of Splunk. We have an app that you install, and I cheated and made sure all my tabs are open because my Splunk box is a little underpowered. Really quick, easy to set it up. So I was at Splunk for a number of years. I brought my Splunk hoodie for today since, celebrating the acquisition for everyone that's still there from the Phantom days. But really pretty easy to set the app up. All we want to do is just go in, we drop an API key in from GreyNoise, and then it's there's a couple of things we do. One of them is we can configure this to just scan your indexes. So basically, we can just say in whatever indexes you specify, you're SIM compliant or not. here's the data that GreyNoise knows about everything in your index you supply here. Mine, I have it set for the last 7 days because I don't have a ton of data in them. Usually we see people kind of put this a little bit lower. But the idea being, one, I can have my indexes kind of continuously scanned and have this data that I can reference. We do also add in custom commands. So if you do have notables that you're generating in ES, or if you have just kind of ad hoc searches you're using in Core Splunk or ES, we can tack GreyNoise data on, which we'll take a look at. And then the other one that's actually pretty interesting, we can also ingest a feed of GreyNoise indicators directly into Splunk. So we write it to the KV store. And really what this lets you do is just makes it easier if you are working with larger sets of data. Firewall logs, NetFlow logs, any kind of cloud logs, auth logs, things like that. We're just getting hammered with scans all the time and people trying to log in, all those fun things. We keep all the data locally for the last 24 hours of everything that GreyNoise has observed. You can choose, just the known scanners, the bad scanners. You can drop everything in there. But really what it lets us do is keep it local. When you have larger data sets, you don't have to hit our API. Works a lot faster and just makes it a little bit easier if you do have some of those, kind of bigger data sets you're working with. So once you have the app configured, simple, easy, drop your API key in. What it lets you do, like I said, turn on your index scanning, gives you a nice dashboard. My indexes are full of garbage, we'll say. So pretty high percentage of match against GreyNoise. Hopefully it's not like that in yours. But we give you a nice dashboard and overview of everything that we see inside the indexes. And then depending on how we want to set this up, also, we can also go in and just say, you know what, now that I have this data, I can reference against to say I want to know, more information about things that I'm seeing. So it gives us a way where we can start to find that delta between your data and Splunk, the data that GreyNoise is seeing, and we can start to surface actually a whole bunch of things in here. Like this guy here, has never been observed by GreyNoise. So I have all my data local. I can start to work with this depending on what I want to start looking at and start searching through Splunk. So we have a bunch of other features as well. So if you're familiar with GreyNoise, IP similarity, IP timeline, if you want to start looking things up against our API, you want to do it from Splunk instead of having multiple tabs open. Absolutely, we can add those things in here also. So I'm just going to pick on this guy here, and I can say, let's do timeline instead. Or I want the last day's worth of data for an IP address that GreyNoise knows about it. Things we can do to just hit our API and get that data back. So we can work out of the dashboard, but usually kind of the exciting things come from if I do have my say access combined. If I take my data that I have inside of Splunk, any kind of queries I'm working with, any kind of events, alerts, notables that I'm triggering, we can tack on our GreyNoise custom commands. So we have 8 of them in here. Some of them we just keep for historical purposes. But these range from anything where I can say I want to just do a quick lookup. So I can say I want to basically just do a quick lookup. What does GreyNoise know about an IP? And then we're just going to make this one really easy and just say I want to table this output with the IP and then the GreyNoise data that gets returned. So the nice thing is everything comes back as custom fields inside of Splunk. And we'll give this one a second to run. But we can start to basically classify our data inside of Splunk. And I can even go through and say, I want to search, let's do it this way. I want to search where GreyNoise knows about an IP. And then further, add in my other favorite one, enrich. Quick just basically gives us yes or no. Have we seen, does GreyNoise know about an IP? This is where I can also say, if we have seen it scanning, I want to take those IPs. I want to enrich them. I want all the data. So everything that I would see in the UI, I want to return that back. because either I want that data in here, I want it as part of my alerts or notables that trigger, but I just want more information about these IPs, what we see them doing, what GreyNoise sees them doing. So you can actually start to combine some of these searches and get back all the fun data. So CVEs that are exploiting, destination countries, really just more ways where we can start to search this data. And I see in the chat, do you have examples of Splunk searches for beaconing traffic with GreyNoise contacts for Riot known scanners, etc.? Yes, so I have a couple of examples. I actually cheat and just use a bunch of different dashboards to show it, but we'll touch on a couple of those things. So we have our custom commands that we can add in. One of the interesting ones is this idea of also, if I just back some of these out, if I go back to my logs here, we also have this search, GN filter, which does the same thing. We just take our field, line, IP, noise, events, false, basically takes the same parameters, whatever field my IP address is in, looks it up against GreyNoise, but it only returns data in this case if GreyNoise hasn't seen any activity. And I'm going to just back this out a little because sometimes we don't get data back in my Splunk. But nice way, a lot of people use this if you do have larger data sets, logs that you're looking through. We want to do a little bit of hunting, but we want to clear things out. Gives us an easy way now where I can say, I want to take my logs, I want to take my data, but I want to just clear out some of the noise. Whatever's left over, that's where I want to start actually doing my hunting in here. So it just gives us ways where we can apply that data either to say, as my notables trigger, I want to look them up in GreyNoise, I want to use them to kind of filter my data. And just depending on how we're applying this, either on inbound or show in a minute also some of the Riot data also that we can use on outbound data to say, I just want to kind of classify, group where my traffic is going to. Maybe I want to start looking at, whatever's not Riot data. But just gives us a way to reference the GreyNoise data set a number of different ways inside of Splunk. So there's a couple of different ways that we can start to apply this. So we do have a couple of custom commands we add in to do the lookups. If I take something like my, just a couple of alerts here that trigger, what I can start to do is I can add on, if I say I want to edit this, what I really want to do is I want to just change this up a little bit here. So any of my outbound data, I can say when I add in my GN Riot command, and I want to use the dest IP, and I want to just table out the GreyNoise data also. So again, anything that we have our notables for, any of our alerts, anything that we have our alerts for. So I can add on my Riot data. Again, all my outbound traffic, if I want to start, in this case, just taking some of the alerts, but start to group them by my different Riot classifications or Riot information that we have coming back. And then again, finding the things outside of that to say, here's everything else that's left over that we don't see going to our Riot services. Same thing, inbound data. If I want to start just saying, I want the same thing, add in my GN enrich field is source IP. And then I want to just tack this on just because I do want to know what kind of data we have coming back in here. And I can use that to either start to reprioritize my data as well. So in this case, some of these are things that GreyNoise has seen. Ooh, this is actually making a really big table. Let me do it this way. We'll just open this in a search. But we can start to say, basically, I want to find things, again, as my alerts are triggering, things that GreyNoise knows about and I see. Maybe I drop those in priority. Things that GreyNoise doesn't see that I'm seeing alerts for. Things that I might want to surface up inside of my my alerts and my notables that are triggering in Splunk. So there's different ways we can apply GreyNoise to inbound, outbound traffic. Another one that's usually pretty interesting is if you have any kind of automation playbooks. Applying Riot to phishing playbooks is a big one that we see a lot of people using it for. really just to have the kind of concept of classifying emails that are coming from kind of known email providers and services versus finding the things that aren't coming from there. Because as I am building out my automation and my playbooks, this could very well change how much I want to automate. If it is coming from Office 365, sure, it could still be suspicious, but I want to handle that a little differently, as opposed to maybe if we get some phishing emails reported from server and somewhere that we don't do any business with. Maybe it's something that was just compromised. So it gives us different ways where we can have some of that context just for making better decisions. If this is something that we are also pushing to something like I always call it Phantom, Splunk, or a different automation platform, whatever it might be. But just having some of that additional context for when these things do trigger as they are being reported. But again, really the goal of using our data with GreyNoise is to kind of be able to filter our data, find the things that, the difference between our data and GreyNoise is. So I can find, things in here, taking things like my firewall data and being able to say, these are the things that are, not observed by GreyNoise, but hitting my firewall. So even if I look at one of these guys here, from Belgium, hitting my firewall in Boston. We want to find those things, but we can also start to just pull out other interesting pieces of data, especially if we are enriching some of this data with GreyNoise to say, these are CVEs that GreyNoise has observed these IPs exploiting. Maybe this is a list that I also want to take and just make sure that I'm patched for, because some of these are a little bit older in here. Actually, I only see one from 2023. The rest of them, a little bit older, 1999, 2019. Hopefully those are things we're patched for. But using this also to have kind of that baseline across what we're seeing across the internet, just to drive some of that as well. Another common thing that we see that people are starting to do with GreyNoise data. And we have some people that expand this out to other things like their attack surface management. If they have Jodan, Census, any one of those tools, a bunch of other ones out there. I want to take kind of my external perspective. What do they see from that? What kind of services are they discovering? But at the same time, I want to know, what are people scanning for and trying to, I broke something there. What are people scanning and trying to exploit? So for my devices that are exposed and for my different services, what kind of things is GreyNoise seeing? Because again, I want to use that as we do, have some of these things discovered by our scanners. Also use that to say, these are things that we need to prioritize what we're addressing. And then the last one, I promise I'll stop there because I think there's a couple questions too, and I want to make sure there's time for those. But as we do take all of this data, like I said, you can ingest this data into the KV store. And what we can actually do is we can also start to just build reports inside of Splunk. Because now that I do have that data locally, now what I can start to do is if I we'll pick the Czech Republic today. Maybe I just want more information around what we're seeing from certain places that we see traffic coming from hitting our sensors. I have it set up per country. We can do this CIDR blocks, ASNs, organizations. There's all sorts of different ways where we can just get more information around what we're seeing inside of or across our sensors, our GreyNoise sensors. In this case, pulling a report to just say, picking no country in particular, just one at the top of the list, but hitting 98% of the countries that we have a sensor deployed in, a couple of VPNs, a couple of Tor exit nodes there, CVEs, tags, things like that. So if I do want to just start doing some of this kind of reporting research for different corners of the internet, we'll say, gives us just another way. If I have this data locally, I can either apply it to my larger data sets like my firewall logs, NetFlow data, if you're working with larger data sets, or just having it in here locally to build some of these reports, just to have more context for how infrastructure is being used, what kind of things we see coming out of there, just to have some more of that context to maybe drive some better decisions for, do we want to block things? What do we want to do with this? So there's Fantastic. So that was when we built this dashboard. We built it on a Friday afternoon, as you can tell by the name Thrunting. Splunk will let you rename things, so it looks better, but it doesn't actually change the ID for it. So thank you. Yes, that one I will live with that one forever. So I'm going through the. So you see noise events here. GreyNoise has any entry. And let me just look this one up quick. So, and I'm just looking through the chat. Does that answer your question, Jeff? Did we touch on that for? Because I'm just going back here. I see the link you dropped into. And the GreyNoise has any entry for a given IP. So we do only have really we would only have entries for if we see either hitting our sensors in some way or if it's part of that Riot data set that we curate. We'll look at the Zoom Q&A too. Let me check in there also.
Yeah. Any more? If you're watching right now live on the Zoom, let us know if you have any more questions. Either submit them in the webinar chat or through the Q&A. We'll see them in either spot. Looks like Jeff said he wanted to verify that noise status is literally just we have an entry for that IP address.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So noise, like I said, depending on which command you're using, the GN quick is basically just yes or no. Do we see this? GN enrich gives you all the data. So GN quick is just a way to say, I think it would be a great way to learn how to type today. If we just table the GreyNoise fields. So GN quick basically just says, where does it fall in the GreyNoise data set? Part of Riot, part of the noise scanning data set, or we just haven't seen it. And then you can tack on the additional command if you want GN Riot for the details of what service it is, GN enrich if you want all the fun kind of activity details.
Cool. We have enough time for more questions if there's more questions. If not, no worries. We are recording this and we'll upload it to YouTube afterwards, so folks will be able to watch this in the future. If you're watching this in the future, hello. I hope everything's great out there. But we plan to do more of these GreyNoise 201 type things in the future. So if you have other things that you want us to cover and these sorts of events, please let us know. And we'd be happy to keep that in mind when we plan more of these in the future, because we'd love to just answer everyone's questions and be able to show you how to do the stuff that you want to do or that you need to do for your job. Let's see, that looks like another question from Jeff might have just came in through the chat. Otherwise, I want to thank everyone who's been watching today, who's been hanging out with us this early afternoon / morning on a Tuesday. Like I said, we'll be doing more of these in the future. So if you have ideas, feedback, things like that, just stuff that you'd love us to have us cover in the future or talk about in more webinars or YouTube videos, please let us know. Join us in our Slack or our Discord server. You can find the links to those at greynoise.io/community. We have a new community page on the website that links you to all sorts of things community. So we hope to see you over there. Otherwise, really appreciate Nick's time. Thank you so much, Nick, for joining me. Thanks to Jordan and Ashley on the GreyNoise team for helping me make this happen and doing the work on the marketing and social media side of things. And thanks to everyone who joined us in the chat. We really appreciate your help today in helping make this happen and asking some questions. Well, thanks everyone for watching. We hope to see you in the next one. And as always, have a great day and we'll speak to you again soon. Peace.